COVID-19 pandemic has affected educational systems worldwide, leading to the near total closure of schools, universities, and colleges. Most governments around the world have temporarily closed educational institutions in an attempt to contain the spread of COVID-19. As of June 7, 2020, approximately 1.725 billion learners are currently affected due to the school's closure in response to the pandemic. In Nigeria, students have been away from school since March, and they may likely remain in their homes furthermore based on the recent government's decision to suspend its early announcement for July 13, 2020 for the reopening of schools for students in Basic 6, GSS 3 and SS 3. Hello and welcome to Total Woman on AD4 TV Radio. I am Ute Olori. In this episode, we'll look at teachers, educators who are transiting through a particularly uncertain and difficult times in terms of their professional life and work. My guest today is a counselor, an educator, and an administrator with 16 years work experience in mentoring, coaching, school administrator, and ownership. My guest is Glory Oche Emmanuel. Welcome to Total Woman.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. Now, it's no longer news that a couple of private school teachers have been at the mercy of kind-hearted people, parents, since the school shut down. I think you may want to explain to us or share with us your experience so far in this COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you so much. Well, I've heard a lot of people said, oh, private schools, teachers are benefiting from kind-hearted Nigerians. But the truth is just an handful of teachers that have benefited. A lot of private school teachers are going through tough times now, and school owners, because a lot of them have not been paid since the closure of school. In the first place, this salary is not even enough, and then you are at home without salary. It has been challenging. And so, from my experience, I know that I've received calls from so many private school teachers pleading for assistance. I wish I could do more, but it's not in my capacity, because basically we run from what the tuition paid by parents, and since the closure of school, parents are not paying tuition fee. Coincidentally, those that are even owing second term fee have decided to just be quiet about it.
I wanted to say, I know that some parents did pay for the whole year, some pay for third term, and third term is no more there. And is there no way that the schools will begin to go into those reservoirs and take care of the teachers?
Well, you know, recently I heard some person saying private school business is very lucrative. That's from the outer look, but it's quite demanding. So if there are schools that have reservoir to go back to, maybe very few. A lot of schools, I've seen schools owners that have converted their premises into poultry farm. I've seen schools owners that have converted their premises into other forms of businesses. Truth be told, there are a lot of schools that will not reopen after COVID-19 because they can no longer keep up. Especially school stays in rented apartment. There are schools that the landlord have said, please, this one that we don't even know your fate, leave our premises and let's give it to individuals that are ready to, pay. So there are a lot of challenges that are, so you don't have, it's when you have a reservoir that you now revisit. A lot of schools are running on deficit because you have a lot of bills to settle. So there are very few schools afforded to pay teachers half salary for 1-2 months after the but couldn't keep up with it. So it's challenging when you said we should visit our reservoir. Schools that are owned by churches, maybe schools that have been there for 40 years, 30 years, that have branches, that have people like the government, senators, and as their clients, could afford to do that. But truth be told, I know a lot of school owners that are even begging to eat now. So,
is that bad?
Yeah. So I sincerely don't know what the government, we've heard a lot of stories about the palliative, CBN palliative, schools should assess it, but with a lot of lineup of demands, things you should meet up with to be able to assess it. I don't know of anybody around me that have assessed that money so far. It's possible there might be some in some states that I don't know, but school owners around me, I've not heard of any, So getting teachers to, it has been challenging for us meeting up with our demands. I'm not sure any school owner is happy that your teachers are suffering. Talking from experience, it has not been funny. There are days I will just wake up and I'll like, wow, if it's this tough, what will my teachers be going through at this time? What are they doing and all that, And then the government just keep on going back and forth, giving you, today they will give an information, tomorrow someone else will come up and say no, and that also, parents are waiting. I know a lot of parents that are owing school fees, if there's a date for resumption, will start making plans to pay up the backlog because they know school will soon start. But as long as government, we are still at home, nobody is making effort. Parents don't pick calls. In our platform, I've heard school owners complain that parents that are owing them don't pick calls. Me particularly, there are some parents I don't call because when the lockdown started, I call parents to check on the kids, to talk to the kids, because they also need encouragement this time. It's challenging for the kids too. So I will call to relate, how are you doing? I'm missing. But parents that are owing me school fee will not pick my calls because they thought I'm trying to call to find out when are you paying me my money. So it's that challenging. And I think parents should also think so much. When even you as a parent, if it's challenging for you at this time, imagine what is happening to your child's teachers.
That depends on the salary that you pay to take care of them. But I also heard, I learned that a lot of schools started organizing online classes. Okay, like for my son, his school moved online. A couple of them moved online. And I hear that some parents made certain deposits, or the school requested for, if you must study online, pay this. Were those money not enough to at least support?
Well, just like you said, that a lot of school moved online, but we must also understand that because this is not a system we are used to, it was challenging for parents to move with the trend. A lot of factors. Light, so you have your batteries are always down, get access to data, on both ends. Now, you ask if the online fee, it depends. I know, like particularly my school, we did an online class free for like a month before we even requested a parent pay something. But taking the statistic, even while it was free, the response was very low. When you try to reach out to parents, some of them don't have phones, and especially that the government, there was something that the Minister of State did when the news journalist asked if we could run third term online. And at that onset, he said no. So a lot of parents will ask, why will I pay money for my child to be repeating what he has learned? Even if though a lot of school actually did third term work online, but because there was a negative vibe from the government, a lot of parents were not committed to it. So you just see, I know some schools are charging 3,000, some 5,000, some, Very few are charging maybe big amount like 50. The highest I've heard was 50, So, and any school that is charging 50, be sure that on a normal day, their school fee should be over maybe 200, 300,000. And so, if you are collecting 200,000 or 300,000 as school fees and then you are charging 50, this 50,000 cannot solve the problem that 300,000 is solving. So it's still not enough. Like in my case, you do percent, I give what we're charging, just charge the students of 5,000 naira, and then the teacher takes, but still participation is very low on the online classes, and that's also fall back to the initial statement made by the government. So I think the government should sit down and they should have a proper discussion among themselves before anybody come online and come on air and start saying what, because we are tired of you are coming today, you say something else, and tomorrow I don't open news of reopening of school anymore. I say when they are ready, we'll see an official letter to the head of our association.
All right. If you're just joining us, it's Total Woman on AD4 TV radio, and we've been talking about how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected schools and school owners, teachers, and every caregiver that work in the educational sector. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking more with my guests. We'll look at what can we do. From the explanation, it is really, really bad. But is there a way out? We'll talk about that when we return. Please don't go away.
I am a total woman.
All right, so welcome back. We're still talking about how the pandemic has affected women, especially school owners and teachers. Now, some may argue that the private schools are an enterprise, okay, and as such should not be on the government's funding list. Okay, why this may be true, under normal circumstances, we are in an abnormal circumstance right now, and governments across the world, across nations, have been helping to see how they can put appropriate measure in place to support the unemployed, to support the self-employed, even to support big companies. What is the situation with Nigeria as it pertains to the private sector, private schools, and what is your organization also doing? I know you have an umbrella body. What are they also doing to see that they benefit from whatever government is doing?
Well, just like you said, it's true that private school is a private enterprise, but we are as well businesses in this nation. We pay our tax, so we feel at this point government should consider us. Our association has, especially the FCT chapter, have been making having a lot of discussion. Recently, the leadership of our association, that's the National Association of Proprietors of Private School, met with the minister and also with a representative of the vice president, because when the 50 billion palliative was announced, private school was not included. So they met, had several meetings to advocate for their members, and so recently the government said, okay, private school should be included in that CBN palliative loan. But still, the question is, sometimes you just look at, when I look at the documents, the requirements and all that, you discover that some growing schools, the new ones coming up, startup schools, cannot still meet up.
What are some of those criteria or requirements?
Well, I need to present. It's just like when you want a bank loan, okay, all those requirements, you present a collateral, you present a guarantor, you present a lot of things, So if I'm requesting for 10 million for instance, I need to present a collateral that is more than that amount. If I have such, will I
Will you
want to
go-
go
yes.
get a loan? So those are some of the things you should look at. So even if you are saying, okay, these things are available, it's just like saying, I told a friend, there's also a school owner, I said, you see, leaders have troubled the government so well, and it's like, let's just tell them this so that they will get off our back. For me, that's what I felt, that okay, if we tell them, we will do it now. See, we saw an article going on social media when they say government said they are going to be paying private school teachers from, they were quick to say, no, all we said is that private school owners should try and assess the palliative loan so that they can.
pay their teachers.
But you're asking me to get all this to assess the loan. We've been making efforts to see if we can assess. I don't know anybody around me that have. It's possible I might be wrong. There might be some, but because I don't know all the private school owners in Abuja, but those close to me, I don't know any. So it's the government should do things that are very realistic. You know, I just tell myself that okay, schools. I think schools is the only sector that is totally closed till now. Every other place is open. You go to.
But whatever you do is dependent on even us, the parents. So if we don't have jobs, or we don't make sales, or we don't get our salaries, you don't do anything. You don't move. You don't survive. Is there a way that your associations can come up with things that would help members to at least survive this period? Because if your dependence is totally on government or on parents, it's alarming.
Well, I think that's why we are a developing nation, because there are so many things that you can have access to in the developed world that we can't here. Recently, I think, with the help of the president of FCT chapter, Mrs. Bankole, they announced a set of trainings they are going to be doing for school owners to see how we can diversify. You know, instead of just depending solely on the private school business. Like recently, I started a foodstuff business and catering services. So aside a school owner, COVID-19 has made me to diversify. I just started that recently. So trainings are ongoing for different kind of, I think recently we had one on snail farming, fish farming. The association is trying to do that, bringing in experts to train school owners to say, see, even after COVID-19, you can't just sit down and say you're a school owner and all you're doing is waiting for tuition fee that will come in and all that. You have to try other things, you know. Maybe if I had a farm before now, I would have used that to access the agri loan faster, because that's the easiest way to get money from the government now, you know. So COVID-19 in a way is good. It has opened up our eyes that we cannot just, we cannot just sit down and we are waiting on parents. I was speaking to my management team recently and I said, I hope you know that even if government say we open school today, things won't just go back to normal. It's not all parents that will allow their kids to resume school. Then there are some parents that have lost their job during this period, so they can no longer afford the school. Then there are some parents too that, because of the guideline for COVID-19 that talks about the numbers of kids that should be carried in the bus and in the classroom, there are parents that cannot afford to go to send their kids to schools that they are used to, because there will be no longer bus services. And if you must use bus services, it might be twice or triple the number price. So they will just want to look for a school close by. So a lot of things will be changing. So school will not just resume and then return back to normal.
Okay, for women who are teachers, how do you think that this support the association is giving to you, the trainings, how do you trickle it down to your teachers so that they can also benefit?
I think that will be basically on individual level. because what will be my vision or my goal for my staff might be different for what plan the next person have. Personally, what I do is during the close down, whatever training I see online that I think will be beneficial to them, we have a WhatsApp group for staff. I send it to them, especially those that are free, that they don't need to. So that after this period, you just ensure that even if you don't gain anything, you come out a better person. And then, you know, I was discussing with my husband this morning. I said majority of teachers are female.
Of course.
Yeah. So like in my school, I have like 80 to 20%. 80% female staff, and then
And many of them are the breadwinners.
yes, and they will go back home and are faced with a lot of things. The kids are home, those of them that are married, the kids are home with you. So aside you're thinking the fact that there's no money, kids don't understand that language of there's no money. We just want to eat. And staying at home has made their appetite wide, so they eat more these days, you know. So you're thinking of, okay, is it how to get money to get food for them, or how do you want to keep up that they don't eventually forget what they have learned before March? You understand? You know,
whole thing that you're going to be facing
oh,
when school ever resumes. Now, I realize from what government is saying, in other parts of the world, there were graduations took place, other people are in a new session, having summer, and then they're going to a new session. And our case in Nigeria, we're just there. What has this pandemic revealed about the education system in Nigeria?
Well, the pandemic has helped us to understand that it is high time that we don't just appoint anybody into government officials. We need to have capable hands, people that have foresight, people that are not just there to listen to the news and say this is what is happening in UK and just copy and edit and put Nigeria where you have London. People that will sit down and said, okay, what is applicable to our system before you're bringing certain things into. I remember that shortly before they declared the total lockdown of schools, a lot of schools were about to start second term exams. Those that have written second term exams maybe are schools that are not following the calendar, which also is an offense to the government. They give you a calendar that you must stick to, and if you are not following that calendar, it's an offense. One of the major challenges we have in this country, and I think why schools are not reopening now, is not because private school owners are not ready. It's because the government is not ready. The government school where we have massive population of kids, they're not doing anything yet. They give us a list of items, may ensure this is in place, and school owners have been I told somebody, I said, I won't put myself under any pressure. There are school owners that bought the infrared thermometer for as high as 75,000 because there was this rumor in June we are going to resume, trying to meet up with the guideline. So the little savings they had, they spent it trying to purchase all the items government said we must have in place before school reopen. And after doing that, what did we get? Nothing. I look at the government schools around my vicinity, nothing is happening. They are, since the lockdown, the schools is in lock and key. And the teachers are
told. There's nothing, no attempts to put in place the measures the government is talking about.
I've not seen any for the schools around, the government schools around where I stay. I've not seen anything that is happening there. You know, so
would you say there's a bias against private schools by the government?
I don't want to go out that way. It's just that they are not just being realistic. You know, I told somebody, I said, if from even the budget allocation to education, in the first place, we are contesting with Northeast budget and all that. So you can see, it's far from it. Even from the budget allocation, even without the pandemic, it's a mess managing the government school. So with this now, you want to talk about states that have converted their government school to markets. So how would they now say suddenly, let's close the market because we want to put things in place? And so because you are not ready to do that, you know, you are saying all private schools should be at home. We have UNICEF recently about, I think, 130 million out of school children. It will be more than that after this pandemic. Because a lot of small schools, sincerely, I know school owners are already selling off. There are schools that are selling off. So a lot of schools will not be able to reopen because they can't meet up with the demand the government is putting in place. But they should lead us by example.
Okay, from what you just mentioned now, don't you think it is time for schools to merge? Because I know there was a time where in the private sector, public sector, I noticed that a lot of schools in Lagos and other places that they had to merge, you know, and they have school one, school two in a big compound. Can that happen with the private sector?
Well, it's going to be challenging because I think this COVID-19 has helped us to also see our weaknesses as school owners. Because I tell people, school business is not competition. We are expected to collaborate. And that is one thing that schools in Nigeria mostly don't have. We are out to compete. So with that mindset, it's really going to be difficult. But if we are collaborating, because I used to say no matter how big your school is and you declare free education, it's not all the kids in your area that will come to that school. But there is a common place that the Nigerian child will always meet. They will meet in church, they will meet in the mosque, they will meet everywhere. So you that is up there, the I am mighty school, the kids coming from your school will meet a child coming from that low school in either Kabusa, in Kobe. They will meet in church, they will interact, you know. And recently, President used to say, if you don't collaborate and you feel okay, I'm okay, I have all I need, you know, the child coming from that low income school that can no longer go to school will terrorize those of them that come out from. So I think if we'll be able to look at that and we'll come into merge to become stronger, just like the banks did time past, it will be good. But it's going to really be challenging for us, sincerely. I don't see how that's happening.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. My guest, Glory Oche Emmanuel. We've been talking about the situation of things in the school environment and how COVID has also revealed some of our lapses and weaknesses and the things that we've taken for granted. And it's also time for government to begin to be innovative. I mean, think outside the box. We can't just copy and paste like she mentioned. We can't allow education should be a priority to government. It's not about whether it's the private sector or the public sector, but it's about the education of the Nigerian child. We need to have a rethink. If there's anything we should play politics with, not education. Not education. The statistic is alarming because after the pandemic, we're going to go back worse than we started. The statistic would definitely be worse than what it was. We talked about children out of school. We talked about how big graduates. We've been shouting about these issues. It's going to be worse. Government, it is time that you come and work with the private sector to see how we can remodel things for the Nigerian child and to save education in Nigeria. I'll be with you again next week. Thank you for spending this time with me. My name is Muti Olori. I'll be with you again on the same program next week. God bless you.